Around the time that school shut down for the remaining academic year, the Washington Post published an article claiming that, quote, homeschooling during the coronavirus will set back a generation of children. Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Kramer for MRCTV. The main crux of the argument was that online schooling isn't entirely effective, but that doesn't mean that actual prepared homeschooling isn't. Most parents are being thrown into 24/7 homework mode while also trying to work from home and manage their household. Homeschooling is not designed to be like a standardized school setting that transports to the home, but is rather tailored for each individual child and family's needs. The author goes on to say in order for kids to catch up, we should consider adding more school days to the school year, lengthening the school day, or eliminating summer break for the next couple of years. Could you imagine? Kids already spend most of their childhood in school, and now some want to rob more of it. What's important to note is that we didn't always have state-mandated education in this country, and America still became the wealthiest and most free nation in the world despite the schoolhouse closing for planting season. In fact, quote, Americans were among the most literate people in the world, end quote, prior to compulsory schooling. There are real-life lessons to be learned outside a classroom, and perhaps parents could take advantage of this time to teach them. I wasn't homeschooled, but most of the time I wish I would have been. I don't mean to sound overly dramatic, but for a young conservative or Christian, school is sometimes more of a fight against indoctrination than a true education, and feels more like a prison than a place where your intellect can soar to new heights. Quote, homeschooled students consistently test 30% higher than the national public school average and have higher high school GPAs, higher SAT and ACT scores, and higher first-year college GPAs, end quote. Yet Elizabeth Bartholet, a Harvard law professor, recently called for homeschooling to be banned. What's even more hilarious than that, however, is that Harvard Magazine, who's promoting Bartholet's qualms against homeschooling, spelled arithmetic wrong on their cover illustration of the article, and then they went back later to correct it. Quote, homeschooling not only violates children's right to a meaningful education, she claims, it may keep them from contributing positively to a democratic society, end quote. Not only does this violate the right of parents and children, but also violates the diversity of thought in the pursuit of truth. Bartholet's stance has less to do with actual education and more likely to do with control. The left wants your children to either not exist through means of birth control and abortion, or to exist, but within the context of the state, not the family. You'll notice this trend through programs touted throughout the Democratic Party primary, like taxpayer-funded childcare.
So my proposal that 2-cent wealth tax pays for universal childcare.
Increased funding for public education.
Biden's proposal would triple federal spending on low-income schools, taking it from $16 billion to about $48 billion. The bulk of that money would be used to give teachers a raise.
And an end to charter schools.
We have seen many, many problems in charter schools, and they are taking money away from public education. So I think public money should go to public schools, and we're to freeze all private charter schools.
And tuition-free public college.
Let's make college debt-free for all. We're going to make college debt-free for all, and we're going to make college affordable. Bernie Sanders and I will work together to make college tuition-free for the middle class and debt-free for all.
But the article highlights the main reason Bartholet's against homeschooling, because many who homeschool their children do so for political and religious reasons. Bartholet believes that some of these parents are, quote, extreme religious ideologues who question science and promote female subservience and white supremacy, end quote. Quite an accusation to make. And of course, the Harvard Magazine article doesn't back this up with any claim or evidence. Quote, it's also important that children grow up exposed to community values, social values, democratic values, ideas about non-discrimination and tolerance of other people's viewpoints, end quote. Whose social values? Planned Parenthood's explicit pro-abortion sex education, the politics of teachers' unions, cultural Marxist ideology, relativism? Why should the state decide over the parents what values are taught? Bartholet continues, quote, the issue is, do we think that parents should have 24/7 essentially authoritarian control over their children from ages 0 to 18? I think that's dangerous. I think it's always dangerous to put powerful people in charge of the powerless and to give the powerful ones total authority, end quote. I agree. That's why the government should not be in the business of educating its public. Homeschooling, charter schools, and private institutions should have a stronger voice in the education marketplace and not be intimidated by political machines and teachers' unions. Maybe if we allow non-mainstream educational choices to grow, minds will follow suit. What do you think about Bartholet's claims? How do you feel about homeschooling? Were you homeschooled? I would really like to know. Please comment and give it a thumbs up, hit the notification bell, and subscribe. Also, if you want some MRC gear, head on over to mrc-store.com and pick some up. For MRC TV, I'm Jessica Kramer.